tried to think of an intro, couldn't think of anything, so let's just jump into this. Right now, I am practicing drawing faces, particularly the Andrew Loomis way from the book Fun with a Pencil. I'd never done this method, honestly. In all my years of drawing, I'd maybe done it a couple times, but never seriously. I just didn't like to do it. Even now, I'm kind of struggling with it just because it's boring. Practicing the basics is honestly boring, especially when I've been doing it so long and now I'm going back to them, even though I've never done them in the first place. But yeah, so far I'm proving why that was detrimental to my skill as an artist in the first place, of never having practiced the basics like this. Sure, it's hard. My hand is cramping right now because I'm having to press so hard onto the paper thanks to this really crummy pencil I'm using. And the blue just doesn't come off as well. So I'm trying to press down as hard as possible. And so that's making my hand cramp. I'm trying to hold the pencil in a certain way that other artists do. But yeah, basically, every time I draw, I usually draw a human, a face, or something, but it never comes out right. And I've always been meaning to practice my faces. I've always been meaning to actually seriously practice the basics, and it just never happened. I don't know why. I bought all these art books and stuff, and I never really read them. It's kind of stupid. I buy them like I buy sketchbooks. Oh, it looks nice, and I'll read it eventually. But now, finally, just sitting down and actually doing the work, and as expected, it's hard. I mean, it's actually unexpectedly, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. Because now I'm having to follow a template I never had to before. Every time I drew, it was just freehand, or I'd be looking at a reference and just barely copying that. But now I'm drawing circles, I'm drawing the line work for it all, and I'm drawing it repeatedly, which also drives me crazy. It's like I can never draw the same thing twice. It drives me crazy to try and draw the same thing twice, and here I am basically drawing it 2 or 3 times. And that drove me so crazy that I said, okay, time to give up at this point, and just started drawing the whole thing right then and there, and then draw it a second time, but then add in the line work and just call it quits, instead of drawing the circle with a little more detail, the circle with a little more detail than that, and then the circle with a little more detail, and then the same circle with the same detail, and then add in line work. It was crazy. It was driving me crazy. So, and for some reason I was lining all the circles up and then lining the next batch up. Is weird. So now I'm just drawing the entire thing as is, without drawing the circle several times first. It's honestly laziness on my part, again, and that's the same laziness that kept me from doing this sort of thing all these years, from getting better by practicing the basics like this. And to any artists out there aspiring or wanting to do basic things like this, don't cheat yourself like I did. This is kind of regret, but at least I'm doing it now. Better late than never, right? But yeah, it's kind of regret, because I've been drawing for 11 years now, seriously. I've drawn my whole life, but I've just gotten serious about it for the past 11 years. I'm 27 now. And this is the first time I'm actually doing the basics. I'm actually following a tutorial, or at least following the book tutorial. And so far, this book, the first half of Andrew Loomis's Fun with a Pencil's drawing very cartoony faces, which is okay for me. Although I would prefer realism. I've always tried to draw realistically, badly at that, but always the attempt. I've been getting into more cartoonish style and more cartoony faces because eventually I do want to do animation, and this is why I'm following the Andrew Loomis method, because he seems to do a lot of cartoony faces. You see my pug in the background there. Um, and I like that style. I just decided I like realism, and it's good to practice realism because then you can distort the faces however you want. And oh, there you see the book in the background there. But realism, you learn realism, and you can distort the faces however you want. However, this book teaches you how to do the cartoony versions first, which is all right with me because it makes it more interesting. I'm gonna make another video because this one was running. This segment was running long enough as is, and I don't want to make my videos too long. So the second half is going to be more realistic faces. I think this is the beginning of that. But yeah, so far, cartoony faces, it's okay with me. You can be more expression. You can make more expressions with the cartoony faces. And of course, they're easier to draw. You can focus on having like I think the point is to look at the shapes of the face first, and the first shapes you get are circles and triangles and all that, and it's just easier to make a cartoony face out of that rather than a realistic face. Realism comes next when you've become a little more practiced and experienced with it. And I'm just trying to do the entire book as it was meant to be done. And again, it's difficult. It's just going back and learning all the basics like this, and doing it on my own, especially. If you go into a class, it's easier just because you kind of have no choice but to do as the teacher tells you to. You know, draw this and draw it like this. And I've taken a couple art classes, and they've actually been helpful. Funny enough, they've actually been very helpful. But now I'm not going to school, so I'm going to have to learn on my own. And for anyone learning on their own or trying to practice a new skill, don't cheat yourself. Do the basics for any kind of that goes for any kind of skill. You practice the basics as much as you'd like to jump in and do the stuff you want to draw. You know, you got to do the basics first because it makes it easier to draw that stuff that you really want to draw later down the line, and you'll be more satisfied with your work if you already know how to do the basics. And you'll probably learn more unique ways to draw it, like I am. Like, again, the exaggerated features of these faces are giving me new ideas for different types of faces I could draw later down the line in my own animations. Anyways, this is the end of the video now, so I'm going to stop talking. I don't have an outro, so goodbye.